Hello, our dear viewers, and welcome to a new edition of our program Africa Today. I'm Maïsti Rabia. According to the World Bank, the free trade among the African countries poses actually great potential in order to draw more foreign direct investment or FDIs and increase the benefits. More about this free trade agreement and its positive impact on Africa in the following story.
The World Bank said that free trade among African countries poses great potential in drawing more foreign direct investments and increasing benefits. To attain this, it says that trade agreements like the African Continental Free Trade Agreement need to be fast-tracked since trade between African borders still faces restrictive constraints which limit growth. The agreement was adopted in March 2018. At that time, 24 countries had deposited their instruments of ratification. By last May, there were 54 signatories, of which 43 had deposited their instruments of ratification. So far, Cameroon, Egypt, Ghana, Kenya, Mauritius, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Tunisia are participating in the agreement-guided trade initiative, representing 5 regions across the continent. The global lender maintains that trade and investment have been the primary drivers of growth for developing economies, lifting hundreds of people out of poverty, hence the need for governments to focus on easing intra-trade across the continent. The agreement is fully rolled out would create a single continent-wide market that unites 54 countries with a combined population of 1.3 billion and GDP of $3.4 trillion. It would also reduce barriers to trade and investment and boost competition, raising the attractiveness of Africa for regional value chains and to investors, the lender says, in part.
The African Development Bank's AFAWA hits a $1 billion US dollar investment milestone in leading to women entrepreneurship in Africa. The African Development Bank Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa has reached a landmark of $1 billion US dollar in approved funding designated for lending African women entrepreneurs. More details.
The African Development Bank's Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa initiative has reached a landmark of $1 billion in approved funding designated for lending to African women entrepreneurs. This is yet another milestone for the bank following a historic summit last week to tackle the escalating challenges of food security in Africa. The Dakar to Africa Food Summit, co-hosted by the bank and the government of Senegal, was attended by 34 heads of state and government, more than 70 ministers, farmers, representatives from the private sector and development partners. The initiative was launched in 2015 in Dakar during the first Feed Africa conference, Dakar One Africa Food Summit. Dr. Beth Dunford, the bank's vice president for agriculture, human and social development, said that she is incredibly proud of the initiative financing achievement. The initiative benchmark reminds us that when we invest to grow Africa's food system, we must also invest in Africa's women entrepreneurs. Women run the majority of Africa's agricultural sector, small and medium-sized enterprises, yet they face significant barriers to accessing finance. Across the continent, African women entrepreneurs face an estimated $42 billion gender financing gap compared to men. In the last 2 years, the bank, through the initiative, has multiplied the volume of investments towards women-owned small and medium enterprises sevenfold.
To shed more light on the issue, we are very much delighted to be joined over the phone by Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Ambassador Bayoumi, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you?
How are you, sir? Ambassador Bayoumi, the World Bank said that the free trade among the African countries possess great potential in drawing more foreign direct investment and in increasing the benefits. What's your take on that?
It is true, but it is far away from reality.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Africa is in a very bad situation. The direct occupation of the Western countries to Africa was changed to an economic occupation. I tried myself to buy anything from anything which means something. Yeah. From Africa, I failed because you have to buy it from European capitals, which their companies are occupying the African economy. So, if you, that's why I came back with the result that if you want to trade with Africa, you have to invest yourself in Africa.
Yes.
And a minister of forestry in Africa told me, if you want to buy our timber, you have to come and cut it and take it yourself.
Yes.
Otherwise, you don't have other means.
Yes.
That's why we are encouraging investment in Africa. The initiative of the Egyptian presidency of the African Union in 2019, it came like that. We are encouraging our partners in Europe, in China, in Japan, to come and to invest in Africa with the Egyptian experience, so we can penetrate there and we can do it. China now is doing a fine job trying to help the African people to explore their own wealth, and it is going slowly but surely anyway.
Yeah. Mr. Ambassador, how Africa Free Trade Area is somehow could be considered an opportunity for recovery and development in the continent, as unfortunately you are saying, as you have kindly mentioned, that still we have been hearing a lot about the free trade agreement and its benefit on the African countries, but still we did not see this materialize on the ground. What are the challenges and how to conquer these challenges?
It is a very good step, but we need more efforts. It's not as easy as it looks.
Yes.
Africa is very poor in transport. It is very poor in banking system. We don't have first-class banks to support any transaction in Africa. We need many things in Africa before we see enormous results. But it is a very good occasion, and still not every African country has already signed the agreement. But theoretically and legally, we have a large free trade area of the 51 African countries, and this is the good news. We hope we continue like that, and one day we shall see some results in this concern.
Yes, hope so. Ambassador Bayoumi, also we have to mention here that Egypt was among the first African states to outline all of its obligation to the agreement to the African Union Secretary, and was also one of the first to ratify the agreement in April 2019. How can we benefit from such an agreement, and how to increase our investment in Africa?
This is very simple, because we are African after all. We are Arabs and African at the same time. And we believe in what we are doing. And the good thing that the African belief in Egypt is encouraging us much more. We are the most acceptable face in Africa, because we are African, we are black, we are white, we are everything Africa can think about. But still, it is a matter of possibilities. And we are trying to allocate as much as we can of our possibilities, and maybe also the international organization and the wealthy countries to come and to invest in Africa. I witnessed myself many conferences in the Arab League trying to encourage investment in many African countries, especially in South Sudan, and we went to South Sudan to do that. So the intention is very good, but it needs a lot of time until we reach what we need.
Yes. Sir, we have to mention here that Africa is a promising market for Egypt in the current period, while the Egyptian market is still a window for many European products to access the African market. How do you see that?
This is very good, and it is one way we attract direct investment in Egypt, because if you export from Europe to Africa directly, you have to pay custom duties. If you do your job in Egypt and with the help of Egypt, then you have Egyptian origin, which is allowed to export to Africa exempted from any custom duties. This is the way we are attracting foreign direct investments even to Egypt. And we hope to do so as soon as we can.
Yes.
But it takes some time, of course, and we are doing this.
Yes, sir, we have to mention here that Africa is somehow a wealthy country with its natural resources, yet we do not see a proper industry until this very moment. So how we can change that? How we can change the fact that we are importing most of our products and still we do not see much made in Africa yet?
Yes, as I mentioned, Africa is not wealthy continent.
Yes.
I always say that the money flow from Africa to the rich countries. It's much more than it receives, because it pays its debts, it pays its imports invoice, much more than it receives as investment or as the result of its exports to the wealthy countries. So we need to change the situation to make a sort of money flow to Africa in order to establish whatever we need of industries.
Yes. Sir, actually the trade and industry sectors is one of the key supportive sectors of the Egyptian economy. What's your take on that?
Yes, and I think we have both to learn many things and to cooperate in order to see what are our possibilities. I have a small experience when I imported in Africa some products of the canned food industry in Egypt. And I made a point to send some samples to some key persons in the country. So I received a phone call from the Prime Minister himself saying, I'm not thanking you for your presence. I am congratulating you. We didn't know at all that Egypt has the ability to make this industry of canned food. And this is the most important industry, I would think, in Africa immediately, because huge quantity of vegetables and fruits in Africa are wasted every day because they don't have a way to keep it in refrigerators or to can it or to export it. So this is a good file. We have to work on it. And I think it's easy because it doesn't need huge capital in order to create industries like that. But it's not only the only problem. Then we need banking system, we need transport, we need airports, we need the ports in Africa are very small. It cannot receive big ships. So it costs you a lot in order to go or to come from Africa with merchandise.
Yes, indeed, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you so much for your precious input. Our dear viewers will go to a short break, and after that we'll be back to resume our program, so stay tuned.